Venom War has been absolutely amazing so far, and we're here to break down the first 2 issues. Man, they're good. Anyway, Venom War is going to be a 5-issue event with several spin-off series along the way, and before we dive into the first 2 issues from the main title, let's briefly catch you up on what led up to the main event in the first place. Alright, so the crap really hit the fan for this Venom War to be set off when Carnage ripped the Venom Symbiote off Dylan Brock, then impaled him through his back with one of his tendrils, killing him in Venom issue 31. On the last page of that issue, a caption says, "Dylan Brock falls into the heart. Dylan, there you are, took you long enough," as we see him greeted by a giant Venom hand, aka the Eventuality, with the final caption saying, "Into the Unbeyond." If you are wondering what the Unbeyond is, as the Eventuality was quoted saying to Eddie Brock in Venom 18, it's the heart of the Hive, the true home of the King in Black. But this is not a throne room, Eddie. It's an engine room. It's where we do the work. But now you may be asking, what's the Eventuality? Well, the Eventuality, in essence, is the final form or final self of Eddie that watches over and supervises all his past selves within the Unbeyond. I say final self because once Eddie Brock became the King in Black, he was essentially plucked from time itself and made into a bunch of different time-displaced offshoots of his person. Some of these offshoots would be Bedlam, Wild, and Meridius. And again, I'm breaking all this down because it's important to understand as we go into Venom War. In any case, in Venom issue 32, we find out that Dylan wasn't killed by Carnage because, as we see at the beginning of the issue, the Venom symbiote was able to catch him and repair his heart, but Venom says, but Dylan is dead and his soul is gone. Then at the end of issue 32, we see apparently he's not dead, as the Eventuality returned him, as we see Dylan waking up saying, "I'm alive. The hole in my shirt where Carnage stabbed me, it was all real. The Eventuality, the 5 questions, everything I saw, everything he showed me. Venom, you there? We gotta talk. Venom, get out here right now, okay? That's an order. Venom, where are you?" Venom just answers him saying, "I'm not safe for life. I never was. The best thing I could do for any host is never to bond again." This leads us to Venom issue 35, where we see all the different versions of Eddie Brock, such as Bedlam, Tyro, Meridius, and Wild, falling through time after their confrontation with Carnage. Because remember, like I said earlier, once Eddie Brock became the new King in Black, he was plucked from time and split into a bunch of different offshoots of himself. In any case, they all turn on Meridius, who tried to kill the main Eddie Brock, and sent him back to the late Cretaceous period. From here, we get one of the key components as to what started this Venom War that was previously stated by Carnage. The main Eddie says, "Time's made us different people, but we're still all Eddie Brock. And more, we're all Eddies who've seen what's happened to Dylan because we left." Tyro responds, "What Carnage said, that can't be true. About killing Dylan? I agree, that monster says whatever he thinks will hurt us most. Doesn't make it true. But that vision he showed me, the one he ripped from Meridius' mind, Venom World, that feels real. That's our future if Dylan keeps the Venom symbiote, the future Meridius was trying to create, the whole planet as Venom. Somebody needs to set things right. As the only one of us with a human body, I nominate me. We're going to go back to the time I left, or as close as I can manage. We're going to find my son and find my other. And if anyone gets in our way, we hurt them. Let's go." So the main takeaway here and what we need to know for Venom War is that Carnage showed Eddie a vision that shows him if his son Dylan keeps the Venom symbiote, he will turn Earth into Venom, making the whole planet Venom World, and obviously Eddie can't let that happen. So he's looking for both his son and Venom now. But wait, it gets better. The book then takes us back to Dylan, who's somewhere in New York, where he's chilling with his cat Sleeper and the symbiote robot Flexo. And it's here we find out what's going on with those 5 questions he was referring to when talking about the Eventuality after being brought back to life at the end of issue 32. We learned in Venom issue 35 that the Eventuality told Dylan, "I will answer any 5 questions. You get 5 questions, son. Take your time." Dylan then tells us in Sleeper, "So I asked if I'm dead, what happens to Venom? And it told me," as we see Eddie Brock in the future becoming Null, saying, "We are Venom." The issue ends with an older Dylan from the future visiting his current younger self saying, "I'm you, kid, and trust me, things are about to get really crazy. Welcome to the war." So let's recap this prelude, if you will, and set up for the Venom War. Essentially, what it all comes down to is Eddie Brock and his alternates are searching for Dylan because of the vision Eddie saw of Dylan turning the entire planet into Venom World if he keeps the Venom symbiote, while Dylan was shown by the Eventuality that if he dies, Eddie will become the new Null, thus pitting father and son against one another as they both think each other is going to turn evil in the future. And this, my friends, brings us to Venom War issue 1. Issue 1 of Venom War opens up at the Grand Garden Arena in New York City, where there's a UCWF event going on. Ultimate Class Wrestling Federation, where we see a man called Symbiote Smith issuing an open challenge saying, "You want what I got? You take it from me." Last man or alien standing walks away with the unlimited golden belt. However, as the event is going on, time opens up and Eddie Brock with his offshoots arrive in the arena. Their leader, the original Eddie, then says, "Oh hey, I recognize this place. From one garden to another. And what are you supposed to be, pal? That shirt looks familiar." Long story short, Eddie and the rest of his offshoots start wrestling everyone in the ring and they take them down easily, at which point Eddie picks up the mic and says to everybody, "This ain't kayfabe, so clear out the rubberneckers but keep those drone cameras rolling. I've got a message for the folks at home. This ring is ours now. It belongs to the Kings in Black and you don't get it back until we get what we want. Two things. We want my son, and we want my other, because this war isn't for some belt. It's for something way more important. Welcome to the Venom War." As the issue continues, we are taken to the Venom Symbiote, who is narrating, giving us a rundown of his history and origin pretty much. Venom tells us how after he broke away from his king and his people, he would meet his first host, Tel-Kar, and how he forced him to do bad things. And after that, Venom did more bad things, before eventually coming to his second host, aka Spider-Man, who he first bonded with during the Secret Wars. Venom describes Spider-Man as compassion that shines like sunlight, responsibility that stood like stone, a gnawing guilt that demanded all lives to be saved. I did not yet know what a saint was, yet surely this was a saint, Saint Peter. But then says, "I wanted to be with him forever, and in this place of saints, he tried to destroy me. He said he would rather die than bond with me, yet I still saved his life even after that. I still wore his symbol. I still fought his war. The war against death itself. That's why I came to Eddie. He thought he was bad inside. He was dying, poisoned by shame and self-hate, not by cancer. I made that up to make him stay. I know that was bad, but I heard him that night. I had a responsibility to save his life. That was why I chose to bond with him. That was why, wasn't it?" Venom continues to say Eddie needed me, we needed each other, and if that meant declaring a new war, a war on the holy Saint Peter, Eddie's life would still be saved. That's all I wanted, to do a good thing. I didn't want to kill Peter and devour his brain tissue. I'm certain of that, but it all got so complicated, as we then see Venom explain his other hosts after Eddie, like Annie, Angelo, Flash Thompson, Lee Price, and Dylan, before ultimately making his way back to Peter's closet, disguising himself as clothing once again, but not any clothing, the black Spider-Man costume. As he says, "Now I'm hanging here in Peter's closet, the place I once felt useful, wanted, safe. I'm hanging with shirts and socks and other costumes. Simple dead things of spandex and cloth who do not think or feel or judge me. I am waiting to be dead like them." Now you may be asking, why is the Venom symbiote wanting to slowly die and not wanting to bond with anyone ever again? Well, essentially, Venom thinks that all he's ever done is destroy his hosts. He's nothing but a parasite, so he wants to rid the world of himself. But as he's hanging there in the closet, Peter goes to grab a costume to put it on as his other one is dirty, but once he puts it on, he's like, "My black costume? Oh no." At which point Venom pokes his head out saying, "Peter, don't freak out." We are then taken back to Dylan somewhere underneath the city streets of New York as he says to himself, "Carnage, he showed me things that the symbiote kept from me about all the stuff he did with my dad and mom, with all the others, the people they hurt, killed, guilty people, innocent people, everything they felt while they were doing it. And while I was reeling from the emotional pain, Carnage got physical, killed me, for real stone cold dead. Nobody could have survived, but there's that side, right? Something happened to me, something impossible. I went somewhere that was beyond death, beyond everything. And when I was there, I saw this thing, something speaking in my father's voice. It called itself the Eventuality. And it said I had 5 questions. I don't know. I mean, I thought I was dead, but after everything I'd seen, all the awful things the symbiote hid from me, I had to know. I had to know what it'd do if I got back with Eddie. So the Eventuality showed me, as we see what it showed Dylan, which is yet again Eddie now becoming Null, an evil king in black saying, "Fight, damn you, take this burden from me, or the 9th cosmos will be the last cosmos. The last light staining the void. We are the anti-all now, and we are Venom." Dylan then asks, "How do I stop him?" The Eventuality tells him, "You'll know when you're older." Then on the next page, we see Dylan with his older self yet again, who we met at the end of Venom 35. And since the Eventuality said you'll know how to stop your dad when you're older, this means that his older self, who's before him, has the answer. The two then start talking, and the older Dylan tells younger Dylan, "This time machine on my back is Doomtech. If I change the past, it'll stay changed. I can't kill the future, not alone. I'm gonna need your help." Young Dylan asks, "Kill the future?" His older self replies, "There are 3 points in the past I need to push on. If I do it right and you do your part, at the end of this, we'll get one golden opportunity to kill the future." His older self continues to say, "I'm going to make you a weapon, but if you fail, then you know what's coming," which apparently is his dad Eddie becoming evil, ruling the cosmos. Older Dylan then asks, "Do you want dad to be a Null?" Younger Dylan replies, I don't know what I want. I put together this whole symbiote gang, Sleeper, Toxin, Red Goblin, even Flexo the Rubber Man, but I don't even know what to say to him now. I met God and I got 5 questions. I asked what Dad would become. I asked how to stop him. I even asked where he was. I didn't ask how to get him back. His older self says, that's the good news, kid. Dad's already back. The symbiote you need to watch out for is... But he disappears with his time machine before finishing his sentence. Long story short, after Toxin, Normie, aka Red Goblin, Sleeper, and Flexo arrive, they all start watching wrestling and see that Eddie is the one wrestling. So of course they immediately head over there. Meanwhile, we see Liz Allen, CEO of Alchemax, is questioning whose idea it was to send mercenaries after Eddie Brock. Carlton Drake, CEO of the Life Foundation, interjects and introduces Mr. Meridius. That's right, the offshoot of Eddie Brock, who's back and apparently now has the ultimate weapon to battle symbiotes that will allow them to win this Venom War. Elsewhere, Peter is talking to Venom as Venom says the wars never ended. They continue endlessly. Endless lives destroyed, and all at my hand. Can you blame me for refusing the call? Eddie, Dylan, they are both better off without me. Because remember, Dylan was trying to call for Venom earlier, but Venom is clearly ignoring both him and Eddie. Peter basically says, look, if Dylan's going to meet up with his dad, he's probably safer if he's wearing you, as much as I don't want to admit that. But Venom says no, never again. He knows what I am now. He knows all I've done. I won't bond with him again. You can help Eddie, help Dylan, but all I can do is hurt them. All I ever do is destroy. Peter basically calls bullcrap, saying, I've seen you do the right thing. I saw Flash make you a hero. I saw you and Eddie save the world. So you don't have that excuse anymore. You're not some mindless monster. You're not some alien who doesn't know what good is. If you ever were, you've learned. So now you're stuck with the choice. Do good things, do bad things, even do nothing. It's a choice. Basically telling Venom, it's time to step up, Buttercup. We are then brought back to the arena where the wrestling event is, and Dylan confronts his father with his team, and we see Eddie with his. So we have Team Eddie and Team Dylan. Dylan then tells his dad he's there with his friends and asks if they're going to talk this out. Eddie says, we've got all the time in the world to talk, son. I'm just glad you're safe. Listen, I'm back to stay, I promise. But I need one thing from you. I know you cut him off from my hive, but I need my symbiote back, Dylan. I need my other. I need Venom. Dylan responds, I can't do it. And he says, well, that's just not acceptable, son. See, I've seen what happens if you keep him, and it's a nightmare. 8 billion human beings all trapped in a symbiosis that never ends. Venom World. Dylan says, sounds bad, but that's not what I meant. I don't have the symbiote, Dad. Venom is gone. Eddie freaks out saying, what? He had one job. You had one job. Dylan says, why do you even care? I haven't seen you in months, Dad. I'm on the street. Last time I saw you, you were Bedlam. Now Bedlam's your sidekick? How does that work? You say you're back, you're done with your midlife crisis, like you're not going to abandon me for your crap again, and the first thing you do is ask for the thing you killed people with? That's right, Dad, I know everything Venom ever did. Everything. Eddie then shocked says, he told you? Where is he? Someone from above then says, here, don't worry guys, Venom is in good hands. And that someone is Spidey wearing the Venom symbiote, and just like that, issue 1 comes to an end. So let's jump into issue 2. Issue 2 opens up at Alchemax headquarters, and Liz Allen asks, so what's this ultimate weapon, Drake, this chemical of yours? He replies, well, the exact formula is proprietary to the Life Foundation. But Meridius says, oh, I don't think we need to keep secrets, Carlton. Miss Allen already knows about the K-43 iteration, but the new secret sauce is K-44. Are you familiar with Lee Price? He got too close to the symbiote Scourge and paid with his life. After which his corpse met with another alien, the Captive, a natural symbiote predator. It reactivated the symbiote traces in his system and made them controllable. And now those traces are ours and infused into the K chemical. We call it the Zombiote. And a little of it has gone a very long way. Liz Allen says, Mr. Meridius, was it? There's something very familiar about you, Meridius. A familiar breed of insanity. He replies, you don't think symbiotes can be managed, Miss Allen? She replies, oh, I know they can. Flash Thompson, the gold standard in symbiote management, is a close personal friend of mine. But you don't look like a Flash Thompson to me. You look like someone who's mixed dead symbiote goo, reanimated by a literal space vampire, with toxic waste. At this point, a security guard comes running in saying the symbiotes are out of control. The zombiotes, they got out of the basement lab. Even the horse. They're spreading like an infection. We're locking down the building, all personnel to the roof. Now, Carlton freaks out saying they got out, but Meridius just cracks open the vial he has saying, a little early too. Well, God laughs when we make plans. Carlton? He then pours the vial into Carlton's mouth, infecting him, turning him into a zombiote. Carlton, now infected, then infects the security guard, at which point Steven tells Liz the contagion even spreads to the dead. She tells him, way ahead of you, Dr. Steven. Let's see how these zombiotes respond to a dose of anti-venom, courtesy of Misery. That's right, if you weren't aware, Liz Allen is actually Misery, being half anti-venom and half Carnage, which is a little secret of hers. Meridius, then seeing Liz transform, reaches into his suit jacket saying, "There's a complication I wasn't expecting. Luckily for me, I brought my water pistol," as he pulls out a gun that contains the original chemical that he came across years ago. He then blasts her with it, telling her, "Already the perfect anti-symbiote weapon even before I did my tinkering. But if it's any consolation, now that you're drenched in it, this is going to skin my knuckles a little," as his hand turns into a symbiote and he punches her out the window as she falls several stories, crashing on top of a car. Someone then says to Meridius, "You realize she survived that, right?" He turns around saying, "I very much doubt it." And on the next panel, we see it's freaking Cletus Cassidy, aka Carnage, who's there to watch the show, if you will, of Meridius infecting everyone with his zombiotes. From here, we're taken back to the wrestling match where the end of issue 1 left off, with Spidey arriving wearing Venom. Spidey says, "I'm gonna call a quick timeout, folks. Eddie, can we set some ground rules here, pal? Today, it's costume names only, okay?" Eddie replies, "Costume names need costumes. You're wearing mine. Why are you wearing my symbiote, Spider-Man?" Venom then tells Peter, "You should let me talk to him. I know Eddie." But Peter tells Venom, "Yeah, but you're too close to this, Venom. I got this," with Venom ultimately agreeing. Peter says, "So here it is. Somebody had to put Venom on or he was going to die, and I figured you and Dylan might need him." Eddie says, "You're correct. I do need him." With Peter saying, "But we've been through a little bit since then. I've come to an understanding with your other, and from that place of understanding, I'm gonna be honest here, pal, you don't look like a safe pair of hands," as Eddie stares at Peter, pissed off. Pete says that I'm not sure Venom's so good for Dylan. Venom sure didn't think so, and from what I've overheard earlier, it's mutual. Here's my idea. You're worried about Dylan getting the symbiote, Eddie, and he sure seems worried about you, so maybe the smart play is for me to keep him, a neutral third party. I'll rock the chains until you guys have worked things out. I mean, the chains are pretty cool. Eddie says, "Like I said, you're right, Spider-Man. We should definitely stick to costume names. You want to be Venom? I'll be Bedlam." He lets Bedlam absorb him, putting on the Bedlam symbiote, telling Peter, "You're right about something else too. The chains are cool." As Eddie, now bonded with his Bedlam symbiote, starts attacking Spider-Man with chains. While Peter and Eddie fight, Dylan and his team stare and say, "Whose side are we on, Dylan?" with Red Goblin saying, "Oh boy, the grown-ups are fighting." Sleeper then speaks up saying, "Are we picking sides?" Toxin says, "We can't just stand around and watch, Sleeper. Spidey is right, isn't he? If we don't want your dad getting a hold of Venom, Spidey is a hero. He was an Avenger and everything. Him keeping Venom is like the best case scenario." Sleeper then says to Dylan, "Toxin has a point. Spider-Man would be a very responsible host. There's really no downside to this, unless you want Venom back." We continue to see Spider-Man fighting Eddie as he sings, "When a problem comes along, you must twip it," which is absolutely hilarious, but Eddie doesn't think so. Wild and Tyro are like, "Great, now Spidey is losing it. Eddie, Bedlam, let's turn the heat down a little, okay? Maybe don't remind them we're here." Eddie asks, "Turn down the heat?" with Bedlam saying, "Bedlam's got a better idea. More fuel for the fire." He then picks both of them up and eats them, consuming them, making him even stronger. Spider-Man's like, "Did you just eat them?" Bedlam responds, "They were weak. Now their mass makes us bigger, and their pain makes us stronger." Spidey says, "That's twisted, Eddie." And you can tell this is them weeding out all the other versions of Eddie that's been spawned over time. Anyway, Venom senses that Peter is getting angry, but is not 100% sure if it's all Peter and not him. Either way, Spider-Man retaliates with a massive kick to Bedlam and Eddie's face, while Dylan and his gang continue to watch. Toxin says, "This is getting crazy, Dylan. We gotta do something. Do we help Spidey or what? Talk to me, man. I know I said some stuff before, but I don't know what to do here. I admit it, okay? Even without a symbiote, you're our leader." Sleeper says, "Well, I'll follow you, Dylan. Whatever you want. Whatever you need." Dylan finally speaks up saying, "Sleeper, Flexo, form on me." And they do as he starts walking towards Spider-Man and Bedlam saying, "Hey, both of you, stand down or take it up with the Prince in Black." We are then brought back to Meridius, who says the zombie plague is spreading fast. Soon it'll be an endemic. An unstoppable wave of symbiosis. And that's how I get everything I want. My other, my garden, without leaving this chair. Carnage then says Cletus would have called this boring. Meridius asks, "He's not here?" Carnage replies, "Long story. But I think this version of you is just fascinating." Meridius says, "After our last meeting, you'll forgive me for not being thrilled by that. What did bring you here exactly? Why now? What do you want?" He replies, "Oh, Meridius, what does any good Satan figure want? The soul of Eddie Brock, gift wrapped." As we see him turn into Carnage, taking his true form, wielding all blood to go after Eddie once again. And that brings us to the end of Venom War issue 2. So the series is off to a fantastic start with a lot of cool things going on at the same time. We have the main plot of Eddie and Dylan wanting to stop each other, Meridius and the Zombiotes, which are all kinds of crazy. You got Peter back in black becoming the host for Venom once again, keeping it safe in the meantime, and now Carnage is in play wanting to go after Eddie. There's still 3 issues left, so lots of craziness is on the way, and I'm sure it's going to be setting up for the next big thing. But out of everything, I'm curious to see if Venom is going to stick with Peter, and he really will be back in black for a good little while, because we all know Black Costume Spider-Man is one of, if not the coolest coolest versions of the character. But also, Carnage has been a massive pain in the butt, specifically since Absolute Carnage a few years ago, and it all seems to be leading to this. Either way, if you're a Spider-Man or Symbiote fan, you gotta keep checking our channel. We're gonna be covering this series and maybe even some of the spin-offs like the Zombieate stuff. That's really cool.